This has been known for many, many centuries. You have knowledge of alchemy, which is a very advanced form of chemistry, and actually a very advanced form of matter manipulation, which was known to the ancients.
Vibrational chemistry.
You go back to Atlantis and elsewhere, you probably will find an older form of alchemy, which was very active in those days, in which they transmuted metals and all kinds of substances. That art has been largely lost. It is not lost totally. There are secret schools which still operate teaching alchemy. And you have, of course, now in modern scientific terms, you have the capability with these giant cyclotrons and atom smashers, you can transmute matter on a very small scale. And when it came to the development of the atomic bomb, they had to transmute matter on a large scale. Plutonium is a synthetic element. It exists in the atomic table, but beyond the 92 elements. And it is artificially created. And they had to create it in large amounts, and they gave them a great deal of trouble. But it's modern alchemy.
Are you implying that some of the plutonium from the bombs may have been created by the secret societies through purely alchemical?
No, I wasn't implying that. I was merely stating that the conversion of uranium to plutonium is in essence an alchemical process, because you are changing one element into another.
But very crude.
In a crude but scientific manner, but in large amounts. That is, compared to alchemy, you are converting it. We do have the technology today to do this sort of thing. And it's not in the form of the older alchemy, which is a very difficult process to learn, but it is real. But we're now doing it. What else are we doing that the public doesn't know about? This is the problem. You have a two-tiered technology. It may be many tiers. You have had a two-tier technology for 200 or 300 years at least. Radio was used earlier than Tesla, who was given the credit for developing it and inventing it in 1893. It was used as early as 1847, if not earlier. In fact, it was used, according to some reports, in the Napoleonic Wars.
To manipulate the London Stock Exchange.
Right. And by other means to do some very fancy manipulation where the public and even the elite, for the most part, were not told what was going on. Only a few key people knew. These technologies have existed from ancient times, and they've been kept well hidden. They were not available to the masses because they didn't have the technological base to build them. These may have been leftover pieces of hardware. They may have been supplied by aliens. There may have been secret laboratories that could produce them by ones and twos.
And not only this, but they were made... You have to have special technologies available only to the elite to continue their sense of control, their feeling of power. And every time a given technology is spread into the people, into the wider population, you have to present the next new toy for the elite. These higher levels of conspiracies that control the terrestrial elite, they never leave the guys without any new toys. It may be a new Nautilus submarine when everybody travels above surface and nobody even dreams of going underwater. It may be a program to land on the moon way before anybody even dreams of going there.
It's like the British team exploration of the moon in 1897, 1898.
I'm very curious of what you have heard from your channels about this.
Well, there is an interesting story that went around. A friend of mine, Preston Nichols, and I can't talk about it now because he's not only no longer employed, he's blacklisted by the government totally. When he was still working with his company, AIL, I got into a discussion with him about earlier landings on the moon and Mars, namely the Alternative 3 story in the program. And he says he got discussing this with his boss one day at the company he worked at, AIL, one of the divisions of it on Long Island. And his boss looked at him curiously. He says, "You don't really know what's been going on." He says, "You don't know anything about the moon explorations of the last century."
With an illuminated smile on his face.
And of course, Preston Nichols, who was not usually jogged very much, probably dropped his jaw to the floor at that point, because that was one he was not ready for, as much as he has been ready for. He says, "I couldn't pump anything out of the boss as to what really happened and who did it." But he implied it was just before the turn of the century that this actual exploration took place. Now we have the stories, also, we know about the Alternative 3 program, but there are also now documentaries which show that the Germans went to the moon and Mars in 1949 with the circular foil aircraft, Probably the rest of the engineering was perfected down in Antarctica, because they prepared these bases in Antarctica in 1939 after the 2 years of exploration, and moved there before the war collapsed. How many moved there, I don't know, but there are rumors that there were thousands of German troops moved into Antarctica in the prepared quarters they had. And they continue their manufacturing either down there or in one of the friendly South American countries, such as Argentina, as one example. But they finished the development. They made the circular foil aircraft. Pictures show them as quite large. Building in, if you can believe this, in 1943 aircraft, circular foil designs which were 75 meters in diameter and carried naval guns under the turrets underneath them. If not naval guns, Panzer-mounted guns direct from their tanks. And these are photographs which are clear enough to show that no extraterrestrial vehicle is going to carry naval guns or tank guns of a very normal and recognizable terrestrial design. These were not alien UFOs. These were German-built, terrestrially built, undoubtedly German, because nobody else had the technology. When you see pictures of this, you see documentaries which show that they left and went to the moon and Mars in '49. One has to ask questions, maybe earlier. Where did they manage to complete this technology? Where did it get buried? Where have they been? Where else have they gone beyond the moon and Mars? And what have they done with this technology? Here. This is the big unknown.
And so this is actually the very reason I've been talking and researching the topic of German UFOs and the German secret space programs, because my feeling is that all behind the scenes, the United States and Germany during the war have been controlled by the very same power center. So on a one level up in the conspiratorial hierarchies, two bitter opponents and fighters, usually their corrupt governments, are power source. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union took part in a vast secret space program for exploration of the solar system and beyond, with flying saucers of basically the reality that we see on Star Trek. So it is very interesting to explore how these little conspiratorial levels go up through the hierarchies, leave the material terrestrial domain and continue through the supermaterial to the non-terrestrial, through the extraterrestrial hierarchies and federations of united planets, all the way to the highest levels of celestial power structures. And so going back in time 100 years and discovering that there may have been a secret British space program, and a recent private interview with a Russian academician from a secret government research institute on anti-gravity basically gives the theoretical explanation of how this could have been done with a hybrid gun, rocket and anti-gravity technology that the British could easily build at the end of last century. The big question is, if the British and later the Germans had that much and could go to the moon and Mars in 50 years ago, what do we have now?